Donald Trump is claiming total victory after a New York appeals court tossed out a nearly $500 million civil fraud penalty against him. The court's decision was not unanimous, and it still leaves room for Trump to appeal, and it also leaves him liable for fraud. But in the majority opinion, the judges called the fine excessive, saying that it violated the Eighth Amendment.
I think it's very interesting that the president used the Eighth Amendment here, that his lawyers used the Eighth Amendment to get this decision in the way that they wanted it to, when we've seen in other cases, maybe things like the 14th Amendment, that, guarantee us all due process, really not be considered by the president in the way that he goes about, completing some of his agenda.
The court used cruel and unusual punishment because it's not always used in physical cases.
Excessive fine.
Well, but cruel and unusual punishment can be used to mean like excessive, obscene, like financial penalties, which in this case, 500 million was, and the court agreed. It's not that the court doesn't think that he's not liable for fraud or that there shouldn't be any fine at all, because there are still restrictions on Trump's businesses. He's still going to suffer even without this fine. What the court said is that this penalty was disproportionate, wildly disproportionate to the wrong done, because there were no victims. There were no victims of this wrong. Even Trump's business partners, they did their due diligence and they still went into business with Trump because they made money. And Letitia James was so hell-bent on bankrupting Trump that she actually did mental gymnastics. She brought in a banking expert to do testimony to claim that somehow the banks that Trump did business with might have lost out on some accrued interest, which is another load of baloney, because the banks did due diligence and they still went into business with Trump as well. There were no victims. That's why 500 million was absurd and insane.
But you have no problem.
Cruel and unusual punishment.